I work at the largest operational nuclear power plant in the world. And I think a lot of people don't realize that 3 hours away from the center of Toronto is the largest operational nuclear power plant in existence in the world. It's actually in a beautiful location right on the side of Lake Huron. It's in cottage country. People either work in farming, tourism, or at the nuclear power plant. And that's exactly where I came from in the UK as well. People either farmed, they ran holiday lets, or they worked at the nuclear power plant. It produces 1/3 of all the electricity for the province of Ontario. So 1 in every 3 house, factory, school, hospital, office block is powered by the electricity generated 3 hours away from here at the Bruce nuclear power plant. It has 8 units, 2 stations, each with 4 units there. It's a huge size. We not only produce power, in our nuclear reactor, we load isotopes. And these isotopes are extracted for medical purposes. Cobalt-60 is taken out of those reactors, and it's used to sterilize the instruments that are used when you go through surgery. 40% of all cobalt-60 comes out of the Bruce nuclear power plant. They've just innovated with this cobalt-60, and they've developed what's called high specific activity cobalt-60 that can be used in the removal of brain tumors. And we've just started loading that in our reactors. It's just started being used at London and Waterloo. And we're very excited about this because if there's any way that we can save people who have the horrific brain tumor, then that's something that we want to do. Of course, we have to be prepared in case we have an emergency. And that's where my job comes in. I run a team that makes sure that we are prepared for an emergency that follows all our regulatory requirements. We're regulated by the CNSC, the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission, and we have to follow all of their license requirements. The province also has what's called the PNERP, the Provincial Nuclear Emergency Response Plan, and that gives us some guidance and some must-dos if an emergency is to happen, and Dave will expand on that later. But being ready for an emergency is just the right thing to do. I live 10 kilometers away from the nuclear power plant. That's where my wife and children live. We don't want anything to happen, not only for ourselves, but also for the communities that we live in. We have to be prepared in case something goes wrong. So we have a response framework that's been built up in Canada to deal with an emergency if something should happen. And it basically gives layers of command to various institutes. The first level is Bruce Power itself. We will take care of everything within our site boundary. We have the people that will deal with the emergency, and we look after the employees and anybody that happens to be on the site at the time of an emergency occurring. Outside of that boundary of the site, the municipality has responsibility, and we're in the municipality of Kincardine, as you can see on the map, if you can just make it out there. And they look after all the people that live around our plant, and they will make sure those people are kept safe. They will follow the command of the province. So the province has a provincial emergency operations center here in Toronto, and they will be directing the municipality on what actions to take. And then we have the government of Canada through the CNSC that will make sure all our international partners are aware of what's going on here at the Bruce should the worst happen, and get any support or inform them of what's happening should that be required. Emergency preparedness, we have to be ready to respond to anything at any time that might happen at our nuclear power plant. So we practice to make sure that our personnel can respond and protect not only themselves, but the public and the plant itself. That's what our mantra is. Be prepared for anything. So we take an all-hazards approach. That means that we're not prepared for any specific incidents. We're prepared for anything to happen, whether that be a tornado, a tsunami, a meteorite falling out of the sky, an airplane crash, or a security event. we have the people in the station 24 hours of the day, 7 days of the week, that will be able to respond to that. They're supplemented by our on-call personnel. We have 6 crews that are on call, and they have to be able to respond and be there within 60 minutes to start to take over and start to implement any plans. All of these people have to be trained, and we ensure that they have the resources to actually carry out their tasks, and then we drill them and we exercise them every year. That's my job, to make sure that they do that. To make sure that these people have everything that they need, we provide them with the facilities. The first and major facility is actually in the station itself, called an Emergency Operations Center, and this is where the complement crew would go to control the events that are happening and to communicate with the outside world. Then we have an Emergency Management Center, which is located off-site, just to give us some diversity, and these are the people that are on call that would arrive to supplement them, and they would start to liaise with all external agencies and make sure all help is provided to the station as required. And then we would have the municipality, where we have a couple of centers located there, the Emergency Worker Center and the Reception Center, that would be prepared, where we would be prepared to deal with the public. And then we have emergency equipment, not only located on-site, but an off-site facility that would provide generators for power or pumpers for water. In a worst-case situation, we've got to cool the reactor, we've got to be able to provide power to that reactor. So these are located in an off-site facility, ready to be driven on-site within 30 minutes if they're required. And then we have a mobile operations center. Who thinks this photo was taken last week? It was actually taken in the summer. The lack of snow sort of gives it away. But our mobile operations center means that no matter what scale of emergency, we can embark in that center and we can drive it to wherever we need to and control the emergency from any location. It has satellite communications, Wi-Fi, you name it. The only thing it doesn't have is a washroom. So we have to have words with our engineer about that. But we would park it near some facility that would have a washroom. These are pictures of our reception centers in Kincardine and the fire hall in Kincardine, which is our emergency worker center. And we work with our municipal partners to drill these each year. This is our overall response framework. A lot of people think that everything is managed from the top down. In this instance, it isn't. The actual command and control for the incident is run by the Emergency Operations Center. The station emergency controller would be based in there, in either Bruce A or Bruce B. And they'd be supplemented by the people in the Emergency Management Center, providing them with support. But also the people in the Emergency Management Center would look after all of the people who are not in the station and make sure that those people are kept safe. The crisis management team, as you can see at the top, is run by our President and CEO, Mike Renchek. They're actually not dealing with the emergency. What we have them tasked with doing is looking ahead to the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and looking at a recovery strategy to actually carry out cleanup and get business continuity going again. So they are not tasked with doing any of the day-to-day. They've got to be thinking ahead. The Emergency Operations Center and Emergency Management Center deal with the day-to-day and the event that's unfolding. So this is a picture of our Emergency Operations Center in the station. That's Bruce A's. That was taken just a few months ago. And this is the framework for the Emergency Operations Center. There are 40 people available in the station to deal with an emergency. Our emergency response organization for each station comprises of 40 people who are there 24 hours of the day, 7 days of the week. And then our Emergency Management Center has 18 people who are on call, as I mentioned. We contact them through cell phones, pagers, whatever means, carrier pigeons, we would get it to them, and they would respond and be there within 60 minutes and operational in 90 minutes. 18 people, 6 crews to make up that complement. And this is a picture of our emergency management center that was taken at a drill last year. And now I want to go through what sort of events that could actually happen to a station and how we categorize these events. So categorization is carried out by the station emergency controller. As I mentioned, he's in the station, he manages the emergency operations center. He is tasked with reporting out the categorization of the event to off-site partners within 15 minutes what type of event is starting to unfold. The reason for doing this is so that our off-site partners can get up and running and be ready to respond themselves should the event be impacting on those. So we have 4 categorizations, and this is the lowest level of categorization. This is what's called a reportable event. This is something that's happening in the station that is not going to have any impact on off-site, the public or anybody off-site. It's being dealt with within the station. We don't even activate our emergency management center. The station is capable of dealing with it itself, but we let our off-site partners know that we do have an event just so that they can keep an eye on things. So the only people that are activated there are the station emergency response organization. We then go to an abnormal incident. This is something that's starting to get a little more serious. This would mean that we would activate both our station emergency response organization and our emergency management center would be activated. All the Bruce Power personnel would be activated. The chances of it having an off-site implications are very remote, but we will let our provincial and municipal partners know that this is happening, just in case, and they would start to monitor the situation in case it actually worsened. But the aim is that our emergency response organization will gain control of the event and there won't be anything that happens off-site. And then we go to an on-site emergency. This is getting more serious. We're actually activated. Bruce Power's emergency response organization is fully activated. We've told our provincial partners that we're having an event and that they need to be prepared, and so they're starting to activate as well. This is something that could have an off-site, but not a very serious off-site implication, but the public need to be prepared, and so the province will take over preparing the public once that they're in place. And then we have a general emergency. This is our highest categorization. This is where we've got something that is definitely going to affect off-site. It's going to do it within very short timescales. So we want to get our emergency response organization activated straight away. We let the province and the municipality know straight away so that they can be activated at a moment's notice, because we've had major damage occur. And so there is something going to go to the off-site, and they need to be prepared and be activated straight away. The chances of this happening are very remote. This is what you would classify as a Fukushima type event, but that is not going to happen at Bruce Power because we have a lake rather than a great ocean next to us. But we need to be prepared for the worst case. So we actually rehearse this type of event once a year, involving our provincial and municipal partners, just so that we can be prepared and then we can be ready to respond in a timely manner. Okay, that's the end of my presentation. I'll turn it over to Dave to take it up. Thank you.